What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, June 14th, 2024, and I have another emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 15:23 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe and also from Asia and the Middle East. So I want to just start with Europe. We had some major breaking news come out this morning. Apparently, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he is ready for peace in Ukraine. I want to just read to you what he said his conditions are. So he wants Ukraine to withdraw all their forces from all four provinces in eastern Ukraine that are partially occupied by Russian forces, including Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk. And this area includes large cities like Zaporizhia and Kherson, which have 1 million people. So he wants Ukraine to withdraw from four of their provinces that are now partially occupied, mostly occupied by Russia. Also, he wants Ukraine not to be able to join NATO. He wants Ukraine to never have nuclear weapons. And Ukraine also has to limit the size of their military and their technological capabilities. So there's going to be a cap on how large Ukraine's military can get. From what I remember during the initial discussions before the war started, Russia wanted Ukraine to have no more than 200,000 active duty troops and missiles with a range of no more than 30 miles and they could, or 30 kilometers actually. Okay, so they're not allowed to have rockets or missiles that could go more than 30 kilometers, which is about 20 miles. And they can only have like 50 tanks or something ridiculous like that. So I'm assuming that's what Putin means. He also said Ukraine has to be denazified, whatever that means. He also wants all sanctions against Russia lifted by the West. He also wants Ukraine to recognize Crimea as being a part of Russia. So these are some pretty hefty demands here. And this is very serious, guys. The fact that Putin is demanding all of this means that he feels he has a good position and he has leverage. Okay, these are very serious demands. So let me just read to you some quotes from what he actually said. He was speaking to a bunch of people who work for the Russian Foreign Ministry. We're urging to turn this tragic page of history and to begin restoring step by step the unity between Russia and Ukraine. We're urging to turn this tragic page of history and to begin restoring step by step the unity between Russia and Ukraine and with Europe in general. So I find that pretty funny that he wants to restore unity with Russia and Ukraine after bombarding their cities for 2.5 years straight. So very interesting. And he called this a final resolution rather than a freeze of the conflict. And he stressed that the Kremlin is ready to start negotiations without delay. But he said that Ukraine and the West have to take into consideration the realities of the situation on the ground. Putin said that if Kyiv and Western capitals reject his offer, it is their business, their political and moral responsibility for continuing the bloodshed. The Kremlin has repeatedly aired its readiness for peace talks with Kyiv and blamed the West for undermining its efforts to end the conflict. Putin went further Friday and claimed his troops never intended to storm Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, even though they approached the city. In essence, it was nothing other than an operation to force the Ukrainian regime to peace. The troops were there to push the Ukrainian side to negotiate, to try and find an acceptable solution, supposedly. Okay, so very strong words from Vladimir Putin. Looks like he's doubling down on his demands. Looks like his demands now are even heftier than his original demands. Okay, so I don't think Ukraine and NATO are going to go for this. And this is exactly what I was talking about in my update yesterday, how this war is like two pit bulls fighting over raw meat. Okay, neither side wants to back down, and NATO has already rejected this. So it's just going to keep escalating, and Putin has already put his tactical nuclear missiles on full combat alert. They were doing drills yesterday with the Leningrad military district in Russia, which is along the border of Finland and the Baltics. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has all kinds of prepping and survival products, from potassium iodide to emergency food to water purification, solar generators, everything you can imagine in their general store. And they have special discounts set up just for you, the viewers of NYPrepper. And to get those discounts, you got to use my link, preparewithnyprepper.com. The link is in the description below this video. And once you get to that site, you got to look for the My Patriot Supply logo. You click on that logo and it'll take you to their general store. And right now, they're actually doing a $50 discount on the Grid Doctor solar generator. But they have all kinds of discounts here on emergency food, water filters, bug out bag items, potassium iodide. They're actually selling potassium iodide for $10 a bottle with 60 pills in each bottle. That is such a good deal, guys. Normal price, $25 a bottle. So you get yourself a few of those bottles and you have enough potassium iodide for several families. So use the link, preparewithnyprepper.com. And remember, when you get to that page, click on the My Patriot Supply logo to access the general store with all of the discounts. So basically, Putin has put his tactical nukes on alert in the entire western part of Russia, along the border of Finland, down to the Baltics, in Belarus, and also along Ukraine. And so he's basically holding a gun to Ukraine's head and to NATO's head now and saying, listen, if you don't agree to this, we're going to escalate. And he basically says it's their fault for the continued bloodshed if they reject his offer. Okay? So this is more like an ultimatum. This is like a bank robber holding a gun to someone's head and telling them to give them their wallet or whatever, and demanding that the police, whatever, give him what he wants and let him escape. It's basically what this is. And Putin also threatened to retaliate for the West's theft of Russia's assets. So all those yachts that they were seizing and all these different assets that the West has been seizing, Putin is threatening retaliation for it and that it will not remain unpunished. And Putin's remarks came as Switzerland prepares to host scores of world leaders, but not from Russia, this weekend to try to map out the first steps towards peace in Ukraine. And he also said this right after the G7 meeting concluded. And Zelensky called Putin's proposal an ultimatum and that he won't stop. This is the same thing that Hitler did. There will be no frozen conflict. Okay, so he's basically saying that Putin is doing the same thing Hitler did. And Mikhailo Podolyak, the advisor to the Ukrainian president, said on social media that there was nothing new from Putin and that the Russian leader voiced only the standard aggressor's set, which had been heard many times already. Okay, so Russia's not backing down, NATO's not backing down, and it's only going to escalate from here on out. We will do everything we can to stop the Russian war machine, said the former British Prime Minister and current British Foreign Secretary David Cameron. And U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said at NATO headquarters in Brussels today that Putin has illegally occupied sovereign Ukrainian territory. He is not in any position to dictate to Ukraine what they must do to bring about a peace. Lloyd Austin added that Putin started this war with no provocation. He could end it today if he chose to do that. And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Putin's new proposal is even more aggression and occupation. This is not a bona fide proposal. It is not Ukraine that should withdraw troops from Ukrainian territory. It is Russia that should withdraw its troops from occupied land. Okay, so NATO is not backing down, the US is not backing down, and Russia is not backing down. So where's this going to go? World War III, nuclear war. Okay, and the G7 released a statement saying that Russia has to pay $500 billion in damages to Ukraine. And NATO has 500,000 troops now on standby at full combat readiness to respond to any contingency, according to Jens Stoltenberg, the leader of NATO. And NATO has established a new mission headquarters for Ukraine in Wiesbaden, Germany, to coordinate arms supplies and training for the Ukrainian military. And NATO has limited the exchange of information, including intelligence, with Hungary due to the position of the country's authority in relation to NATO. Very interesting. We also had a nuclear bomber fly into the Baltic Sea this morning again. Okay, this is the third or fourth time that B-52s have flown into the Baltic in the last month. We also had another B-52 fly into the Mediterranean late last night. We were tracking that live. Want to just show you guys what we have going on this afternoon. We have some interesting flights here. So we have this aerial refueler that was looping over northern Manitoba. It took off from Fairchild in Spokane, Washington. And my guess is that it was probably refueling the Canadian F-18 interceptors. Those are the F-18s that Canada uses to intercept any kind of air defense threats, including nuclear-tipped cruise missiles during a nuclear war. The Canadian F-18s would be responsible for shooting down any nuclear cruise missiles that would be heading towards North America. So maybe they were doing a drill, or maybe it was a real-world scenario. I don't know. We have a P-8 Poseidon sub hunter off the coast of Washington. Now, what's concerning about this is a lot of people don't know that Washington State has most of our nuclear armed submarines, and it also has our Trident missile storage facility at Bangor Kitsap. Okay, so it's a critical base here. And the Trident missiles are the ballistic missiles on our nuclear armed subs, and 2/3 of our nuclear arsenal is based in our subs. Okay, so our subs are the backbone of our nuclear arsenal. And so this is a very important location. And we now have a sub hunter out here just 2 days after the Russian sub docked in Cuba. And by the way, yesterday, the U.S. sent one of their nuclear powered subs to Cuba. So we now have a Russian nuclear sub and an American nuclear sub, both in Cuba on different sides of Cuba. Isn't that crazy? The Russian sub is on the northern side in Havana, and the American sub is in Guantanamo Bay on the southern side. Okay, so this is how things can happen. Okay, we have literally two subs, both enemies, just 20 miles apart. Okay, and it's possible that World War III could start right in our backyard in the Caribbean. Russia is currently doing exercises with this sub and one of their warships that they brought over to Cuba over the next couple of days in the Caribbean, okay? Right in our backyard, guys. This is very, very serious, all right? Now, we also have this interesting flight here. We have a Cobra Ball that flew from Offutt Air Base, and it went out into the Pacific, and it cut off its transponder somewhere here, or it lost reception. It could be going to Hawaii. My guess is it's probably going over to Asia, so we could expect maybe another North Korean missile test soon. We also have a nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over Arizona, flying over Tucson right now. It was out in the Gulf earlier this morning, communicating with our nuclear armed submarines. And we also have a sub hunter off the coast of Florida here. Check this out, doing loops here off of Florida. And we also have another nuclear bomber airborne over Louisiana today, another B-52 over Louisiana, looping like crazy here. Look at that, guys, over southern Louisiana. And we also have another nuclear war command and control plane up in the air right now. So our nuclear forces are on high alert. And here we have the B-52 that flew into the Baltic Sea, and it was doing loops here near this, I think, Swedish island of Rani, or is it Danish? I'm not sure. But it was looping there for a couple of hours. And there was also a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon in the same area as it was looping. And then we actually had another P-8 Poseidon earlier in the Baltic Sea. So we had two P-8 Poseidons in the Baltic Sea last night and this morning, and another B-52. Okay. Here's the sub hunter that was flying near the B-52. It went all the way up to Latvia and Lithuania, was patrolling this area here. And here's the other sub hunter that was airborne late last night, okay, flying over the Gotland Island. I've never seen them do that. Now, the Gotland Island is a very important island in the Baltic Sea, and NATO has always been concerned that Russia could try to seize control of it because it's very lightly defended. Here's a closer look at the P-8 there looping over the Gotland Island. Here's the flight path of the B-52 that went down into the Mediterranean last night, accompanied by two aerial refuelers. It did the same thing the night before. So I don't know what's going on over here, but it does look like Israel is on the verge of invading Lebanon. Lebanon has really ratcheted up its attacks on Israel. And I'm going to update you guys on Israel in a few minutes here. We also had this U.S. Air Force reconnaissance plane flying off the coast of Vladivostok in the far east of Russia, close to North Korea. And I don't know if this is because North Korea is planning another missile test or for some other reason, but it's very unusual for there to be a U.S. reconnaissance plane right here in this area in the Sea of Japan, okay, close to Vladivostok and North Korea. So something's brewing over here. And before I continue with the breaking news, I want to ask you guys to pray for a subscriber. This person wrote a comment under one of my recent videos saying that her husband, Brian, is going through chemotherapy and radiation for cancer, and his latest scans showed 7 new spots, and he had a biopsy this morning. So please pray for Brian. And also, we have another subscriber by the name of Ingrid. You've probably seen her in the live streams. Her car broke down and she needs some money to either rebuild her engine or get a used car. So please check out her GoFundMe. I'm going to leave a link to her GoFundMe in the comments down below. But she just needs a little bit of money to get a new vehicle. She had some health issues due to a hit and run accident, and those health issues have prevented her from being able to work a normal job. And so because of that, she can't earn as much as she used to, and she's having difficulty getting herself a new vehicle. So I'm going to leave a link to her GoFundMe in the comments down below. Thank you very much. And a Russian VIP went to Sochi last night. Look at all these Russian doomsday planes and VIP planes going down to Sochi. I don't know if this was Putin or someone else. Maybe it's Putin going to his mansion, his $200 million mansion on the Black Sea for the weekend. I don't know. There are reports that he might be going to North Korea very soon. We had this Polish F-16 fly from northern Germany to northwest Poland. What's interesting is it was flying with its transponder off somewhere in northern Germany and near Denmark. And this is right around the time when the B-52 flew over here. So very interesting. And we had more NATO reconnaissance and surveillance over Poland last night. We had this NATO AWACS plane in northern Poland. We had a Swedish reconnaissance plane over northern and eastern Poland. And then we also had 2 Polish border guard planes, one in northern Poland along the border with Russia, and then one in eastern Poland along the border with Belarus. Very interesting. Here's a closer look at the reconnaissance that Poland had in eastern Poland, close to Belarus. They've been monitoring this area intensively the last few days. Here's a NATO AWACS plane flying together with a Polish AWACS plane. Very interesting. And then we had a bunch of cargo planes going to the Baltics last night. Again, we had a Spanish military cargo plane, a British military cargo plane, and then we also had some aerial refuelers go to Poland. Very interesting. We also had a NATO military cargo plane go up to Finland, and then also a U.S. Army VIP plane go up to northern Finland. Very interesting. And then we had this U.S. Navy drone flying in the Black Sea, so we could see some Ukrainian strikes on Crimea again tonight, most likely. And Germany's going to provide a new aid package to Ukraine. It's going to include 10 Leopard 1A1 tanks and ammo for them, 20 Marder tracked infantry fighting vehicles and ammo, Iris-T medium-range surface-to-air missile, Iris-T short-range surface-to-air missile, 3 HIMARS systems, 2 Daches armored engineer vehicles, armored repair and recovery vehicle Berger Panzer II, 4 mine clearance vehicles Wissent 1 with spare parts, 16 fuel trucks, ammunition, boats, small arms, and other equipment. And last night, Russian air defenses claimed to have shot down 87 Ukrainian drones, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Most of them were launched towards the Rostov region, home of Russia's Southern Military Command. No deaths or damage were reported, and it was one of the biggest Ukrainian drone barrages of the war so far. And Ukraine may have damaged an airfield in that barrage, the Morozovsk airfield in the Rostov region, which houses Sukhoi 34 fighter jets, one of Russia's most advanced fighter jets. There was also a fire that broke out yesterday at the Sukhoi Design Bureau in Moscow. That's the company that designed the Sukhoi fighter jet. And since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, North Korea sent 10,000 containers of ammunition to Russia, which could potentially hold 5 million artillery shells, according to South Korean Defense Minister Shin Won-sik. And the websites of all Russian banks are down and preventing people from logging in, and they're doing this to prevent bank runs. And this is a huge sign that the Russian government is in panic mode over their economy. And the Gazprom stock is at its lowest price since the 2008 global financial collapse. So the Russian economy is in dire straits right now. And in Russia's Belgorod region on the border of Ukraine, part of a residential building collapsed in the town of Shebekino due to Ukrainian shelling, according to the Russian government. Okay. And a lot of people think this was some kind of a Russian false flag, that they dropped a heavy bomb on their own building just so they could blame Ukraine. I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, I'm sure they're going to find a way to blame Ukraine for this. And apparently Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, has issued an order to strengthen activities on the border with Poland. And this week, a Polish military ambulance was damaged by a heavy object that was thrown by an unidentified person from the territory of Belarus. Fortunately, no one was injured. This comes just about 2 weeks after a migrant attempting to cross into Poland illegally from Belarus killed a Polish soldier with a spear that he threw at the soldier through the Polish border fence. And a few months ago, a Polish soldier shot and killed a migrant, and that Polish soldier has not been brought up on any charges. And Iran has started to build 2 new enrichment centrifuges at their Fordow and Natanz nuclear facilities. Here we have an official statement released by the U.S. State Department. It says here, the report issued today by the IAEA makes clear that Iran aims to continue expanding its nuclear program in ways that have no credible peaceful purpose. These planned actions further undermine Iran's claim to the contrary. If Iran implements these plans, we will respond accordingly. Okay, so Iran is really escalating their nuclear production. And Western intelligence sources predict that Iran will directly attack Israel in the event of a comprehensive war between Israel and Hezbollah, according to Axios. Okay, so very serious. And Hezbollah's second in command was killed in an airstrike by Israel last night. Hashim Safi al-Din, the head of Hezbollah's executive council and the most senior official in Hezbollah, beside Hassan Nasrallah, was killed. And about 60 rockets were launched towards northern Israel today already by Hezbollah. And President Biden's envoy, Amos Hochstein, will arrive in Israel on Monday next week in an effort to prevent the recent escalation between Israel and Hezbollah from turning into an all-out war, two Israeli officials are saying. Okay, so it looks like Israel is on the verge of invading Lebanon and dealing with Hezbollah. It's coming, guys. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Sun Weidong said that the U.S. deployment of a missile system in the Asia-Pacific will ignite an arms race. Want to just show you guys what we got going on over here in the tropics. We have one tropical disturbance off the coast of North Carolina. It has a 10% chance of development. So we should see this hurricane season's first depression very soon, probably this month, either in the Gulf of Mexico or maybe over here. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to monitor the hurricane season and update you guys on any storms. And if anything happens, I will go live like I always do. But I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. Guys, countless people are mistaking private browsing tabs as a way to stay anonymous online. Even with private browsing mode enabled, you can still be tracked by websites and internet service providers. Also, your data is still at risk if you are using unsecured or public Wi-Fi hotspots. That's why I've been protecting my privacy and data with Virtual Shield VPN. I sleep well at night knowing that my data and privacy is not exposed to governments, hackers, and big tech. And if you use the link in the description below this video, which is virtualshield.com/deals/NYPrepper, you can get 70% off and a 60-day risk-free trial. With Virtual Shield's anonymous browsing, a strict no-log policy, unlimited bandwidth, and built-in malware and ad blocking, Virtual Shield also has 24/7 customer support and was built in the USA. So start protecting yourself today. Use the link in the description, which is virtualshield.com/deals/NYPrepper to get 70% off and a 60-day risk-free trial.